This time on United Way and You, we focus on the importance of advocacy to create positive and lasting change in our region. Thank you for joining us, and please stay tuned.
Hey. Sun shines down upon us all. The air we breathe is all the same. Don't you count your bet on anyone, yeah. 'Cause the only difference is our name. Without you, there's no way. 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 Yeah.
Welcome to United Way and You, a show about how lives change when a community cares. I am your host, Gloria Pace King, and each and every day in our communities, families struggle financially, injustices are committed, and children's needs go unmet. We are all charged with the responsibility of addressing the critical issues that impact the lives of all of our residents. Each of our roles are vital in shaping the health and human service policy for our region. And today I am joined by three very special guests who believe in the power of advocacy. Michael Smith, President of Charlotte Center City Partners and United Way's 2008 Public Policy Chair. Martha Ann McConnell, Vice President of Government Relations for Carolinas Healthcare System and United Way's 2008 Public Policy Vice Chair. And Dr. Patrick Graham, President and CEO of the Urban League of Central Carolinas. Welcome and thank you all this morning for joining me.
Thank you.
I always have the wonderful privilege of talking with people who are friends to this community and friends to United Way and stars in their own right of all that they do on a daily basis, and United Way has the wonderful advantage of tagging onto their coattails because in their real jobs they're responsible for some pretty exciting stuff that goes on in this community. And Michael, I'm going to start with you. If you can just tell people in a nutshell what Center City Partners is and how public policy helps you do your work or influences your work.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to be with you here today.
Thank you.
Charlotte Center City Partners, as an organization, promotes and advocates for the cultural and economic development of the Center City. And in doing so, a lot of what we do is get the right people to the table. And a lot of times that's our policy leaders. And we're blessed in our community and in our state with some really great leaders that understand the importance of investing and creating the right kind of infrastructure to promote private participation, private investment. So it's a large part of what we do.
Michael, so that people have a better understanding, give us a little bit of the breadth of Center City Partners. It's everything from baseball to?
Well, it's everything from caring about the more fragile parts of our Center City, the homeless, to stimulating continued growth of jobs, to creating the right infrastructure, to create a special destination so that, and that's everything from the experience of our guests to the width of our sidewalks, you know, so that we can accommodate our guests, to making sure that there's good urban design that's applied at each of our transit stations, the integration of automobiles and the use of trains just so people can get here and not be intimidated by it. It's all that.
I think it's wonderful that people know that because I think so much of what goes on in communities we take for granted when in fact there's a whole lot of people laying awake nights figuring out how to make this all work together, and specifically when you're talking about economic development, arts, health and human services, it's all a big part of what makes our community great. And one of the things that makes it extraordinary is our healthcare system. And Martha, someone might not understand exactly what goes on in the healthcare setting when it relates to public policy.
Well, we're very blessed in this community, and I'm a little bit biased, but we have a wonderful public health system, and I say that just not with respect to Carolina's healthcare system, but the role that the county plays here as well, and all of the providers in this community. Public policy is what we do. Two-thirds of our patients come from areas and from payer sources that are affected by whatever happens in Washington and Raleigh. And so what we do is provide care to the community, and we provide it in lots of different arenas nursing home settings, ambulatory care, outpatient clinic settings, home health, acute care hospitals where you go to the emergency room and become admitted. So any decisions made in Washington and Raleigh really do affect how we deliver care, but more importantly, how our patients access care and the places that they can access it.
The Urban League has always played a role specifically in economic development as one of the pillars of what the Urban League is about. And you might say, well, Patrick Graham heads an agency. What's that got to do with what United Way is doing? But one of the things I think is important is that agency execs also volunteer on behalf of United Way and serve on committees and speak on our behalf and help us frame the kind of work that we're doing. So, Patrick, in your work as the new president of the Urban League, what role does public policy play in your everyday life, in your new role?
Well, public policy is really one of the things that we really do. The National Urban League and our local affiliate here, the Urban League of Central Carolina, one of our primary missions is also to advocate for our constituents. And so we actually have what we call an opportunity compact, and that's actually 10 legislative agendas that we actually present each year. And to really summarize those, they really come in 4 areas. The right for individuals to get an education, the right for individuals to own, and meaning home ownership, the right for individuals to prosper, entrepreneurship, and the right for people to work, workforce development. And so we really see a lot of the work that the United Way does with its member agencies and the partners that we have is really part of that mission and that goal.
I have always been a believer that public policy was the underpinning of the work that gets done in health and human services. And I've always valued it and always felt that if we make a funding decision, let's say that we're making funding decisions about child care, and we can't have those same funding decisions adopted at the city, the county, the state, the federal level, then in large measure our work can go in vain, because even with the money we raise, we're such a small part of it. If you were talking to the public and the public says to you, and trust me, there were people that didn't think we needed to be in the public policy business. So as volunteers in the community, somebody says, well, why should United Way even be in the public policy business? Anybody, what would you say?
I'll take a stab at it. I think you all are such a great resource for those of us who rely on good public policy. The United Way is kind of the clearinghouse for where we all come to the table and talk about child care issues and how that affects workforce and transportation needs and access to health care and the ability to get a job and parlay that into home ownership. You really bring us all together so that we're not making or advocating for public policy in a vacuum. We are doing it with the knowledge that there are other partners out there, and our public policy decisions and wishes really do affect more than just health care or more than just transportation and education. So it's a great resource for those of us who work on public policy daily to have United Way as a resource to meet and to sit down and talk about the global public policy for health and human services.
Michael, if you were talking to a public official and they said, what's United Way doing in public policy, or how can United Way be more effective to people in public service or people who are in elected office, how would we go about that?
Well, to go back a little bit to that idea of why it's so important, I think oftentimes advocacy people use the term lobbyist with it, and it gets painted a certain way.